Where do you shoot?
Right there.
Ideal for hunting. Now this is a good replica of a 16th century hunting crossbow. A military crossbow at that time would be 5 to 6 times more powerful. They had to be, because in the 16th century they still wore armor in battle. So to be of any usefulness, a military crossbow had to be strong enough to penetrate armor. They've done that job very well. Guys, please don't stand on the fence. They have done that job very well for a very long time, and then along comes the gun. Which do you think does a better job? The gun. Right? The gun does such a good
Crossbow.
job. Not only is the crossbow on its way to
I'm
becoming
joking.
obsolete, in a short time after our time period in history, armor itself completely disappeared. Because as guns become more common and widespread, armor just becomes impractical. It won't protect you from bullets, so it just slows you down. But here on the frontiers of Florida, 450, armor was still a pretty good idea. And so was the good old dependable crossbow. Still a good way to go out and shoot something for dinner.
Oh my god. That was awesome.
You guys ready to learn about our cannon? You are? You ready to make some noise?
Yeah!
Yeah. Boom, boom. Are you doing a video? Boom, boom. Can he go boom?
Let me tell you a little bit about it first. Okay, what you're looking at is pretty unusual. You don't see these every day. You're probably the only park in the United States that regularly fires a 16th century field piece. Now, this cannon is made significantly different from all the other cannons you see in town today, like the ones on the feather. Those are cast cannons. They had a metal mold, they poured liquid metal into it. And once that metal cooled, they would take the cannon out and drill out the bore. This was forged, it wasn't cast. It was made like a, well, let's see, that wooden barrel back there. They would take strips of wrought iron and weld them together around a steel mandrel to make the barrel, and then they sweat on those rings every 4 inches to reinforcement. This cannon was the same thickness all the way down. Also, you notice that the back end is open. This is a breech charge cannon. That means that it's fired by the use of servidors or powder mugs. You see one standing straight up and down at the trail of the cannon. Now, this is where you put the powder and the wadding. Now, the formula of the time was half the weight of the ball. 6-pound iron ball, 3 pounds of powder, or 3.5 sticks of dynamite. Now, with that much powder behind this ball, this cannon had the ability to throw this cannonball 9/10 of a mile, almost to the bridge of Lion. So that's the Hail Mary pass. That's as far as it could throw a cannonball. Now, if you were trying to hit something, probably where those boats are floating in the creek over to your right, aiming point. You have to remember this was an old cannon when it got here. Now iron cannons, they had to be careful with because they were only good for maybe 1,200 shots. They knew that when the iron cooled, it formed cracks, fissures, and these cracks would work open. After about 1,200 shots, the cannon was susceptible to blowing up in your face. And what this did, it would kill probably most of the cannon crew. So once it got to that point, they threw the away. But this was still a good gun. Now, let's show you how it's loaded. What he's going to do is he's going to put the servidor into battery. That is, he's just going to sit there and fit it into the barrel. Now, to keep it there, we've got a block of wood. This block of wood is called the breech block. And yes, that's where that term comes from. A block of wood keeps the servidor in place. Now, we have to make a fuse. What he's doing now is he's pouring black powder down a hole that's drilled into the servidor called the vent. This makes a fuse of black powder, and then he mounts a little bit up at the top. And that's where he's going to aim these Botafuego, or the vent stock. And the reason for this is to stay far enough away from the cannon that you're safe. If we were firing a cannonball, which we're not, sorry to say, this cannon would jump back about 2 or 3 feet. If you've got your feet in the way of the wheels, you're going to crush all of your toes. So you needed to stay away from it. Also, there's a lot of fire and a lot of unburned powder that comes out of that touch hole, so you want to stay away from that too. Okay, we're going to go ahead and fire the cannon now. Now I'm going to tell you a few things. We're only using maybe about 2.5 ounces of powder. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when we fire this, you're actually going to physically feel it. If you would like to get a still picture of this cannon going off, let me tell you a little trick. Line up your shot, put your finger right on the trigger of your camera. When this cannon goes off, most of you will involuntarily flinch. You'll go like this. If you do that, you'll take the picture exactly at the right time. Those of you who don't like loud noises, cover your ears now. Okay? Everybody ready?
Of course the girls get it.
Fuego!
Oh!